I'm 38 now. Name's Daniel Hart. I live in Cedar Falls, Iowa, and if you told me back when I was 16 that the biggest betrayal of my life would come from my own twin brother, I might have laughed in your face. Back then, we were inseparable, the kind of siblings who shared everything from a room to the same cracked sense of humor. But that illusion broke faster than I ever thought possible. The day it happened is scorched in my brain like someone carved it with a hot blade. 16 years old. Mid-December. Freezing cold and dark by 5. I walked into the house after school, expecting warmth, maybe mom's chili on the stove. Instead, I got a cold silence and a packed duffel bag on the porch. My dad wouldn't even meet my eyes. My mom stood behind him, jaw tight, arms crossed, like she had rehearsed this moment in her head 100 times. I didn't understand what was happening. Not at first. Then they told me. Or rather, they spit it at me like it disgusted them to speak the words. My twin, Jonah, had told them I'd stolen from his wallet, that I was getting into drugs, that he caught me skipping class and lying about it. He said I threatened him when he tried to help. None of it was true, but they believed him. Not even a conversation. No chance to defend myself. They told me I needed to leave and not come back, that they couldn't have someone like me under their roof. Someone like me. Their son. I didn't even have time to grab my coat. I just stood there on the porch as the door closed behind me like I'd been erased. I spent the first night in a bus shelter. Cedar Falls doesn't get much snow early in the season, but that night the wind cut through every layer of my sweatshirt. I remember pulling the sleeves over my hands and pretending it was just a sleepover gone wrong, that someone would come get me. No one did. I called my grandmother the next day. She lived about 30 miles away in Grundy Center. She didn't ask questions. She just told me to come. I took the bus and used the last couple crumpled bills I had from mowing lawns that summer. She was the only one who never turned her back on me. Grandma Ruth, small, wiry, and sharper than any knife in her kitchen. She didn't care what anyone said. She said a real family doesn't exile their own without proof, and certainly not based on the word of just one person. That winter with her changed my whole life. I finished high school while working night shifts at a gas station. I saved every penny. I didn't hear from my parents once. Jonah? He texted me one time, some smug line about how actions have consequences. I blocked him and never looked back. You ever start over with nothing and realize that nothing is actually more peace than you've ever had? That's what those first few years felt like for me. I was broke. I was living in my grandmother's basement with a mattress on the floor and a hand-me-down laptop that wheezed louder than my old lawnmower. But I had space to think, to breathe, and no one was watching me, twisting my every move into something ugly. I started writing. At first just blog posts, dumb lists, hot takes, that kind of thing. I'd send articles to tiny websites that paid an exposure, which meant thanks for the free labor. But I didn't care. It gave me something to build on. Words were mine. They didn't lie like Jonah did. They didn't get suspicious when I tried. I could be me in every sentence, even if no one was reading. I worked dead-end jobs to survive. Busboy, warehouse grunt, dog walker. I took whatever would keep the lights on and the Wi-Fi running. Nights were for writing. I taught myself SEO, marketing, formatting, even graphic design when needed. I learned to write like I was 10 different people. Parenting tips I'd never use. Fitness guides from someone who hadn't been to a gym in years. Product reviews for things I'd never touched. Didn't matter. I wrote like I knew it. I faked confidence until it became real. My grandmother saw it happening before I did. She'd bring me grilled cheese at midnight and shake her head like she couldn't believe how much I typed. Someone out there's gonna pay you for all that one day, she said once. She was right. The first real check came when I was 22. A digital marketing firm in Minneapolis found one of my posts and offered me freelance work. Nothing big, a few $100 here and there, but it was more than I'd ever made in one shot. I cried the day that PayPal notification hit. I mean, full-on ugly sobbing, hunched over that old laptop, hoping Grandma didn't walk in and see me blubbering like a toddler. From there, it picked up speed. I built a portfolio, made connections. Companies started reaching out. Eventually, I launched my own site, then a newsletter, then a course. I made 6 figures before I turned 28. And then, one random Tuesday, a post of mine about surviving toxic families went viral. Millions of views, tens of thousands of shares. My inbox exploded. And with it came the recognition I never thought I'd get. Book deals, speaking invitations, even podcasts asking for interviews. All from a kid who got kicked out with nothing but a hoodie and a cracked phone. You know what else came? An email from my parents. No subject line, just their names in the center box like ghosts I never asked to see again. I didn't open it right away. Let it sit for days. When I finally did, I had to read it 3 times just to make sure I understood. They were proud of my success. They wanted to reconnect, and buried 4 paragraphs in came the ask. They needed help with their mortgage. I stared at that email like it was written in a foreign language. Not because I didn't understand the words, but because I couldn't believe the nerve it took to write them. They didn't mention kicking me out, didn't acknowledge what they'd done, didn't say Jonah's name once. Just a neat little narrative about how families drift apart and how life has a funny way of bringing people back together. Sure, real funny. Hilarious, even. I didn't answer right away. I let it sit. A day. 2. A week. I went about my life, booked new clients, did a Zoom interview for a podcast, had dinner with my girlfriend and her parents who actually liked me. I should have been happy. I was happy. But that email sat in the back of my mind like a splinter under the nail. Finally, I wrote back. Short, polite, deadpan. Told them I was glad they were well. Told them I wasn't in a position to offer financial support unless certain conditions were met. And then I laid them out like a lawyer with a grudge. They would publicly acknowledge, in writing, that I had not done the things Jonah claimed I had. They would apologize for cutting me off without even hearing me out. And if they really wanted help, they'd have to send the same email to Jonah and CC me, stating they had wrongfully chosen sides. Simple, direct, not cruel, just honest. You'd think I asked them to jump off a cliff. My mom replied first. A long, rambling letter about how no parent is perfect, and we did what we thought was right at the time, and bringing up old pain doesn't solve anything. My dad never responded. Classic. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message from Jonah. It was a screenshot of a group chat between him and our parents. My name in bold, followed by a string of laughing emojis and phrases like he's holding a grudge over nothing, and let him rot his pride. I laughed when I saw it. Not because it was funny, but because it confirmed what I always knew. I was never crazy. I was just inconvenient. So I sent one more email. This one wasn't a request. It was a full retelling of what they'd done. Bullet pointed, time-stamped. I included Jonah's screenshot, attached proof of my viral post, and all the messages from people who'd said it helped them. And then I CC'd my grandmother. She called me the next morning. Said she read every word. Said she cried. Said she never doubted me. But now, no one else would either. That call meant more than any inheritance or apology ever could. You'd think that'd be the end of it. But people like Jonah don't disappear. They slither, reappear when they smell opportunity. And sure enough, 3 weeks after I sent that email, he showed up. Not in person. He's too much a coward for that, but in the form of a direct message on my business account. Apparently, he'd seen my name trending again. Another post, this one about reclaiming your life after family betrayal, had blown up. And wouldn't you know it, my dear twin suddenly wanted to talk. He started soft, said he missed me, that he hated how things ended between us, said we should catch up like old times. I almost didn't respond, but curiosity's a tricky thing. I figured if he was crawling back, he wanted something. I replied with one line. What do you want, Jonah? He replied, nothing, man. Just checking in. Proud of you. I stared at that for a long time. Proud of me. From the same guy who told our parents I was a druggie and a thief, who let me sleep outside in a snowstorm while he was inside warm and fed. So I asked him, you ever going to tell them the truth? His reply came fast. Truth's complicated. We were kids. There it was. The twist of the knife. Not I lied. Not I'm sorry. Just we were kids, like that erased everything. Like losing a roof over my head at 16 was some footnote in a teenage phase. I told him the only thing I could think to say. I was a kid too, but I didn't lie to ruin someone's life. No response. But I wasn't done. I wanted him to know I didn't forget. So I sent him a photo. Not a threatening one, just an old school picture of us. Both in that awful green hoodie our mom made us wear in 5th grade. The last year we were truly close. I captioned it. That kid deserved better than what you gave him. He left me on read. And that was the moment I finally felt something shift inside me. For years, I thought I needed an apology to move on. But in that moment, with his silence staring back at me like a mirror, I realized I didn't need anything from him. I had already won, because the world saw me now, not the lies he told. The truth had legs, and they ran faster than Jonah's shame. A month passed. I thought the silence meant it was over. Maybe Jonah got the message. Maybe my parents finally realized I wasn't their emergency fund. I started sleeping better, eating better. My girlfriend said I smiled more. I felt lighter. Then came the letter. Not an email, not a text. A physical letter in a plain white envelope. No return address. The handwriting looked familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. My mother's cursive, careful like she was always trying to be the proper parent, even when she was dead wrong. Inside, a printout of their mortgage bill. No note, no explanation, just the bill, highlighted in yellow. Due balance, $7,946.33. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was absurd. It was like sending a fire victim a matchbook and asking them to rebuild the house. I set the paper down on my desk and stared at it. Like maybe if I stared long enough, it would make sense. It didn't. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. I never answer those, but this time I did. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Or instinct. It was my dad. I hadn't heard his voice in nearly a decade. I didn't recognize it at first. He sounded older, quieter, but still carried that same low-level disappointment in his tone, like I was a stain he couldn't quite scrub out. He didn't ask how I was. Didn't ask about my life. Just said they were in a tough spot. That the economy hit them hard. That it would mean a lot if I could help, just this once. I asked him plainly, "Did you send that letter?" He didn't deny it. I asked, "Do you remember kicking me out at 16? He paused, said, "We thought we were doing what was best." I said, "No, you were doing what was easiest." That's when his voice changed. Like he realized I wasn't the kid who used to flinch when he raised his voice. He went from soft to sharp, accused me of holding a grudge, said Jonah was just a confused teenager, that it was time to let the past go. I said nothing, just hung up. Then I pulled up my email, scanned through the folder where I kept every message, every screenshot, every receipt from those years. Not because I was obsessed, but because I promised myself I'd never let anyone rewrite my story. And I wrote a new post. This one wasn't vague. It didn't use code names. It told the truth, sharp, clean, and brutal. About being thrown out. About being gaslit. About how some parents expect unconditional loyalty after giving nothing but conditions. I didn't name them, but I gave enough detail that anyone who knew us would know. I hit publish and went to bed. By morning, it had 1 million views. And my inbox? Full. Including one that just read, "We didn't know you'd go public." No greeting. No signature. Just that. I wasn't expecting what came next. 2 days after the post went viral, I got another message, but not from my parents. This one came from someone I hadn't thought about in years, a guy named Rob McLean. Back in high school, Rob had been in Jonah's friend group. They were thick as thieves, always skipping class, smoking behind the gym, trading rumors like currency. Rob's message was short, but it flipped something in my gut. "You don't know the whole story. I think you should." At first, I ignored it. I didn't know anyone my attention, especially not one of Jonah's old sidekicks. But curiosity has sharp teeth, and it started gnawing at me. That night, I replied, "What story?" What he sent next shattered everything I thought I'd come to terms with. Rob said Jonah lied. Yes, but not just about the things he told our parents. He lied because he had to cover his own tracks. See, around the time everything fell apart, Jonah had gotten into some deep trouble. Not just teenage rebellion. Real, legal trouble. Theft. Vandalism. Even some stolen pills from a locker room coach's office. Things that would have gotten him expelled, or worse. According to Rob, Jonah panicked. And instead of owning up, he crafted a story. He planted things. Spread rumors. Told our parents I was using. Then, one day, he slipped his own stolen money into my backpack while I was in the shower. That's what clinched it for our mom and dad. They found the cash. Proof, they called it. I remember the moment now, like it was a shadow I'd been ignoring. That confused look on my dad's face, and then that mask of disgust. I hadn't understood what they were reacting to. Now I did. Jonah had framed me. And the worst part? Rob said it wasn't even his idea. It was our mother's. Apparently, when Jonah came to her scared, thinking he was going to be arrested, she made a decision. Protect the son she thought was fragile. The one she worried would break under pressure. So she told him to blame me. Said I was stronger. That I'd bounce back. They didn't just believe a lie. They built it. Together. I don't know how long I sat there staring at the screen. There's betrayal. And then there's realizing the people who raised you decided your pain was an acceptable sacrifice. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just closed my laptop and sat in the dark, listening to the hum of the fridge. Like maybe white noise could drown out the weight in my chest. I thought about keeping it to myself. For maybe 5 minutes. Then I realized something. Silence is what made this whole mess possible in the first place. I'd stayed quiet when they threw me out. Stayed quiet when they came back asking for help. Stayed quiet while Jonah got to live the golden boy life while I was rebuilding from dust. But silence hadn't protected me. So I broke it. I wrote again. This time it wasn't just another blog post or a think piece. This was a statement. A reckoning. I titled it, The son you forgot exists is finally talking. And I told it all. I wrote about the night I got kicked out, about sleeping in a bus shelter while my parents cooked dinner with Jonah, about Grandma Ruth, the only one who ever showed up without asking for anything in return. I talked about the lie that started it all, the one Jonah fed them, and the deeper lie beneath it, the one my mother whispered into his ear to save face, to save her image, not her son. I didn't name names, but I didn't need to. Everyone who mattered knew exactly who it was about. I included screenshots from Rob's messages, with his permission, even a picture of that envelope they sent with the mortgage bill, as if my success was just a tap they could turn back on when it suited them. I ended the post with one line, written bold and centered. I don't hate them. I just finally believe they were never for me. Then I hit publish. It exploded. Not just viral, wildfire. Bigger than anything I'd ever written. My inbox broke. Comment sections filled up with stories just like mine. People who were discarded by the families they gave everything to. Who were told they were too sensitive, too bitter, too angry, when all they were asking for was truth. But not all the messages were kind. I got plenty of hate. People who said I was ungrateful, that I should have let the past stay buried. Some even said I should be ashamed for dragging my family through the mud. Funny how the people who talk about family loyalty the loudest are always the ones who never had to earn it. Then came the twist. Jonah broke his silence. He didn't reach out to me directly. No, he posted his own version, a public response on some little-used social account, pretending it wasn't about me even though the timing was obvious. He painted himself as a scared kid doing what he had to do. Said he regretted hurting someone he cared about, but he never admitted what he did. Never said my name. And more importantly, he never corrected the lie. It didn't take long for the family to notice. The post had traveled further than I imagined, not just across social media, but into living rooms, church groups, old classmates' Facebook feeds. People started talking, not just online, but in town. I got a message from a girl I hadn't seen since junior year. Said her mom brought my post up at their book club. That's when the texts started coming in. Aunt Lisa first, the peacemaker, said I was hurting good people and tearing the family apart. Then Uncle Mike, the one who never had a kind word for me growing up, told me I was airing dirty laundry for attention. The irony was hilarious. They'd watched me get thrown out like trash and said nothing. Now I speak, and I'm the villain? I didn't respond. But the silence didn't protect me this time either. My parents went on the defensive. Not with me, of course, but with everyone else. Word got back that they were calling me mentally unstable, bitter, holding on to things that never even happened. My mother reportedly told one neighbor that I always had an imagination and liked to make drama. What she didn't know was that people had screenshots, receipts. My audience wasn't just fans. It was folks who knew what being disbelieved felt like. Survivors of similar erasures. They backed me up in comments, in DMs, even sent messages to my website. Some said they'd known something was off in my family for years. They just never knew the half of it. And then came the one message I never expected. From Jonah's girlfriend. I didn't know he had one. Apparently, they'd been together for over a year. She said she found my post through a mutual friend and, after reading it, couldn't shake the feeling that Jonah wasn't telling her everything. So she asked him point blank about it. And when he tried to gaslight her, say it was an old family issue blown out of proportion, she started digging. She found more than I ever thought she would. Turns out, Jonah's history of rewriting reality didn't stop with me. He'd lied about his job, his debt, even claimed he was estranged from the family because I was abusive. She sent me screenshots. One of them, him calling me a manipulative failure who got lucky. That was when I knew he hadn't changed. Not even a little. But now his lies weren't private anymore. They were public. And when liars lose control of the story, they get desperate. The blowback came fast. Within 48 hours of Jonah's girlfriend's messages, I got a cease and desist letter. Not from a firm. From a local attorney who'd clearly been given half the story and a rush job. It was laughable. Claimed I was engaging in defamation, that I was causing emotional distress, and that my online conduct was harming the reputation of private individuals. Private individuals who threw their son out into the snow and told the town I was dangerous. I didn't panic. I printed it, read it twice, and then called my own lawyer, the same one who helped me incorporate my business. He laughed for a full 30 seconds before saying, "Let them try." We drafted a polite but firm response pointing out that every single thing I wrote was factually verifiable or clearly opinion protected under the First Amendment. And then I posted that too. Redacted names, blurred letterhead. But the message was clear. You don't get to control the narrative anymore. You bury me once. I dug myself out. And now, I brought a shovel big enough for the whole story. The letter wasn't the end of it. That week, someone keyed my car. Twice. My website went down for 6 hours from a coordinated bot attack. Anonymous emails started rolling in with phrases like ungrateful bastard and you should have stayed gone. But none of it scared me. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't alone. The truth had caught fire, and people were standing beside me with buckets of fuel. Victims, survivors, estranged sons, discarded daughters, queer kids tossed aside for being inconvenient. They wrote to me, thanked me. Some even told me they show my posts to their own families and walked away for good afterward. Then, on a Thursday night, I got a phone call I didn't expect. It was Grandma Ruth. I hadn't spoken to her since everything blew up. Not because she didn't support me, but because she didn't want to intrude. But she had heard enough. She told me she saw the public mess for what it was, a desperate last gasp from people who thought silence meant safety. You're doing the right thing, she said. They're just mad they don't get to rewrite it. That call put steel in my spine. The next morning, I wrote the final post in the series. The one where I said goodbye. Not bitter, not triumphant, just done. I told my story. I survived it. And now I was moving on, not because I forgave them, but because I no longer needed anything from them. Not love, not guilt, not revenge, nothing. And I meant it. People think peace is some perfect stillness. A clean room, no noise. But that's not what mine looks like. Mine is waking up in a house I paid for. Not to impress anyone, but because I built it on my own terms. It's knowing that my phone might buzz with drama from people I used to call family and choosing not to answer. It's drinking coffee in silence, without flinching at ghosts. My career? It's steady now. Not flashy, not viral every week anymore, but solid. I have clients who respect me, readers who trust me, and most importantly, I write what matters. I tell the truth, and I don't ask permission. Grandma Ruth still calls every Sunday. Sometimes she sends me little newspaper clippings, like she's still trying to prove to the world, and maybe to herself, that I'm worth being proud of. She doesn't need to, but I let her, because she's the one person who never needed me to be anything other than mine. Jonah hasn't reached out again. Last I heard, his girlfriend left him. She posted something vague about finally seeing patterns for what they are. I didn't like it. I didn't comment, but I read it twice and smiled. My parents? They're still out there, I'm sure. Still telling their version of things. Still convincing themselves they did what was necessary. And maybe they believe that. Maybe they have to. But I don't. I believe what I lived. I don't regret refusing to give them money. I don't regret exposing what they try to keep quiet. I don't even regret giving them the chance to admit the truth, because that was me offering grace. They just didn't take it. And now I've built a life where I don't need to be anyone's scapegoat. I've got friends who know the worst about me and still invite me over for dinner. I've got a partner who doesn't flinch when I talk about my past, but who also doesn't let me drown in it. I've got readers who say, you said what I've always wanted to. Most importantly, I've got me. Fully. Finally. No edits. So no, I don't hate them. I'm just not waiting at the door anymore. That chapter's closed. The house is locked. And if they ever do come knocking again, they'll find peace inside, but not a key.